Christmas Day 2024 turned into a day of mourning when a terrible plane crash happened. An Azerbaijan Airlines plane flying from Baku to Grozny crashed near Aktau, Kazakhstan. This tragedy on a day meant for happiness brought sadness and shock around the world. The holidays became a time of grief as families learned the awful news. The crash reminded everyone how easily things can go wrong and how quickly tragedy can strike. As more information came out, everyone wanted to know what happened. Was it a problem with the plane, a mistake by the pilots, or something worse? Finding out the truth about the Azerbaijan Airlines crash became very important, and people all over the world were watching. We feel so much sadness for the families and friends of those who died. Their pain is huge, and everyone shares their loss. Flight J28243, an Airbus A320 flown by Azerbaijan Airlines, started its trip in Baku, the busy capital of Azerbaijan. With 67 people on board, 59 passengers and 8 crew members, the plane took off into the winter sky, headed for Grozny, the capital of Chechnya, Russia. The plane was supposed to fly over the Caspian Sea towards Aktau in Kazakhstan. It was during this part of the trip that the disaster happened. For reasons we don't fully understand yet, the plane went off course and crashed in a remote area near Aktau. The crash site was a terrible scene. Pieces of the plane were spread out over a large area, showing how violent the crash was. Rescue workers searched very hard for survivors, and thankfully, 29 people were found alive. Sadly, 38 people died that day, leaving a huge hole in the lives of their loved ones. Right after the crash, a team of investigators from different countries went to the crash site. Their job was to figure out what led to the disaster. The investigation was long and careful, with experts from Kazakhstan, Azerbaijan, and international aviation groups. Early on, it looked like the crash wasn't a simple accident. Evidence suggested something else might have caused the crash. The holes in the tail looked like they were made by a missile. Reports said Russian electronic warfare systems were in use nearby. This could have disrupted the plane's communication systems. These findings caused tension between Azerbaijan and Russia. Azerbaijan blames Russia and demands an apology and compensation. Russia denies involvement, blaming thick fog and pilot error. Section 4. Voices from the Wreckage Survivor Testimonies. Among the wreckage, the stories of the survivors give us a scary look at the last moments of Flight J28243. Sobhankul Rahimov got the world's attention with a frightening video. In the video, he calmly says a prayer before the crash. His calmness shows his bravery and faith. His story is very helpful for the investigators. Other survivors talk about a sudden jolt, chaos and fear. They remember the loud noise, the feeling of falling, and the fight to survive. Their stories give us a clear picture of their terrible experience. The survivors' stories show the strength of the human spirit. Their stories give us hope, reminding us of bravery and the will to live. Section 5. The long shadow of disaster implications for aviation safety. The Azerbaijan Airlines crash, with its terrible loss of life and worrying details, has had a big impact on the airline industry. This tragedy reminds us of the dangers of flying and how important it is to have strong safety rules. Aviation safety expert. The possibility that something was done to the plane on purpose, maybe a missile attack, has made people worry about how safe planes are, especially in areas where there's fighting or political tension. This shows how important it is to have better security, especially in those dangerous areas. After the crash, international aviation groups are looking at the current safety rules and thinking about new ways to make sure something like this doesn't happen again. Aviation safety expert. These new rules could include stricter flight paths over conflict zones, better ways to track planes and communicate with them, and more cooperation between countries to share information and stop these kinds of tragedies. The Azerbaijan Airlines crash is a sad reminder that making flying safe is a continuous job. It takes constant attention, strong commitment, and always getting better to keep everyone safe who flies.